me. Can everyone see the slides?
We
Yep,
can.
you're good.
Okay, great. Welcome to the panel on updates on accessibility and online legal research platforms. Delia asked me to remind everybody there's going to be a raffle at the end of this presentation, and you have to be present to win. And thank you in advance for the vendors who are sharing their time and expertise, and also the ones who shared some raffle prizes. I want to start out by saying my inspiration for this presentation was my firm hosted a presentation by Haben Girma, who was the first deaf-blind student to attend and graduate Harvard Law School. She talked about the struggles she had both in undergrad and grad school with things as simple as trying to get information about the cafeteria meals. And I was just really impressed by her. And when we were discussing what programs to have at the Institute, this came to mind. So I reached out to some of our key players in the legal research industry, and they were nice enough to volunteer to join this panel. The way the panel is going to be set up is I've got 4 groups of questions, and each of our speakers is going to take a turn answering those. And between each group, we'll save some time for questions. So let me introduce our panelists. So from Bloomberg Law, we have Dave Kleiman and Matt Guerrier. Dave is a senior product manager who manages the team focused on ensuring that all of Bloomberg Law's users can discover the value of the platform. Matt is an engineering team lead. He is the lead for all initiatives focused on helping users find the most valuable content to them on the Bloomberg Law platform. From Fast Case Docket Alarm, we have Damian Reel. I hope I pronounced that right.
That's right, real, not fake.
He's the VP Litigation Workflow and Analytics Content. He is a technology lawyer who has advised clients on litigated tech issues, remediated cybersecurity issues, and developed software. From LexisNexis, we have Dawn Henderson, who's a senior consultant. Dawn's role is dedicated to accessibility, leading the Enabled Employee Resource Group to ensure all product offerings meet WCAG requirements, working to resolve accessibility concerns, and developing internal training programs to provide education regarding building accessibility into products. From Thomson Reuters, we have Rachel Bratton, Director of Accessibility at Thomson Reuters, who is responsible for leading the efforts for an enterprise-wide approach to accessibility and oversees Thomson Reuters Enterprise Accessibility Team and Center of Excellence. And last but not least, we have Kimberly Dirks, Digital Accessibility Manager for Legal Products. Kim manages the team of accessibility specialists who work on products such as Westlaw and Practical Law and reports to Rachel. So my slides are going to have copies of each of these questions so that everybody in the audience can see what they're answering. And we are also going to change the who goes first in each round. So in questions for round 1, I believe we have the folks from Bloomberg going first.
I think that's right. Thank you for having me. Dave Kleiman, Product Manager at Bloomberg Law. So after a VPAD evaluation in 2020 to assess accessibility compliance of the platform, we put together a team to focus primarily on 3 things. First, we wanted to identify the areas of non-compliance on the platform and start to prioritize how we were going to address those. Second, we needed a team to really think about internal company strategy for getting people on board within the organization, to get them on board with spending the time and resources to ensure accessibility. And third, we wanted to make sure that accessibility was built into the product development process. So our team has been able to make tremendous progress over the last few years. It's an ongoing effort. One of the things that we've been very proud of is really making accessibility a first-class citizen within the organization. In terms of a team mission statement, we actually do have a mission statement. So I was very happy to see that question. Our mission is to make it simple and easy for current and future BLaw users to discover our content, tools, brand, and value. And that mission includes improving accessibility and ensuring that all of our users can use and get value from the BLaw platform.
Great. Looks like I might be next. So Damien Reel from Fastcase, and Dr. Alarm is a Fastcase company as well. The accessibility team is largely, being a startup, we're a bit less structured than perhaps our larger counterparts. I'm an alumnus of Thomson Reuters, so I know that we have Rachel and her team are very well staffed, and certainly I wear many hats, one of which is accessibility. So the accessibility team at Fastcase Dr. Alarm has been around since at least 2015, maybe before that. And has largely been staffed by product members because, of course, product is in charge of ensuring that all users have a good experience. Of course, people who need accessibility is a subset of those users. So we have the accessibility roles largely been within the product team, of which I joined in July of 2019. Also, being a startup, we have not officially declared a mission statement, but now that I've received this question, I think I'm going to build one.
Hi, I'm Dawn Henderson. I think I'm next. I'm with LexisNexis, and we've had a dedicated accessibility team in place for the last 5 years. As part of that, that team's focused primarily on external, our product customer type accessibility, whereas we also support the employee resource group internally. We've had that in place for about 2 years now. We do have external and internal mission statements, and just to be very brief on the internal is to make sure that in all ways LexisNexis provides a very inclusive work environment for all of our colleagues who are living with visible and invisible disabilities, as well as long-term illnesses. And externally, it's majorly focused on ensuring that our products do meet the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and that we are providing responses at a very timely rate that's comprehensive and complete when we get requests via the support request line for our customers.
So Rachel or Kim? Oh,
Kim,
Rachel.
go ahead. Kim, I'm not sure if you're on the call. Otherwise, I'll take the first question.
So I'm here, and
Okay.
apologies, I'm not used to Zoom as much as I am to some other tools. So apologies. Hi, I'm Kim Dirks. So I'm happy to say that when Section 508 first came into being, there were a group of us kind of as our second job who did accessibility, but since 2008, we've had accessibility as a dedicated full-time spot. And I'm also very proud to say that I was the first person hired to be a full-time accessibility expert. So I've been doing accessibility full-time as a dedicated resource for 14-ish years. Math isn't my strong suit, but yeah, so I've been doing accessibility for a long time. I'm extremely passionate about it, and I think that's carried through to the whole company. as our team has grown and become more and more embedded as time goes by.
From a mission state perspective, yes, we do have a mission statement. In addition to that, I'll start with, we have a public facing policy. We also have an internal facing policy as well on accessibility for our employees or employee facing. In terms of our mission statement, I'll just read it. We have a team of highly skilled accessibility experts. Our goal is to provide a single source of best practices, thought leadership, governance, and consulting to add efficiency and consistency across Thomson Reuters. We accomplish this through embedded specialist support across our product portfolio, as well as ad hoc consulting for specific questions throughout the company.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So I'm going to pause now. Does anyone have any questions so far or comments? I am impressed with the 2008 start day, so well done, Thomson Reuters. And if you do have a question, it's a little hard for me to see chat in this, so just unmute and go for it. All right, so moving on to the next slide, which has, it's about the individuals and their background and how they got to their positions and what they do or don't like about being in this area. And so we are going to start, we're going to go to Fastcase first.
Sure. My background is a lawyer since 2002, coder since 1985. I litigated from 2002 to about 2015. So as part of my litigation, of course, accessibility was part of litigation. I did a bit of employment law and that sort of thing. I also attended a bunch of CLEs on accessibility and WCAG, et cetera. I went to lots of trainings because I like to think I'm a do-gooder. And of course, something that accessibility does is do good for the world. So mostly just to be better for humanity, I'm also a web developer. I've been developing for the web since '95, so I also wanted to know how web accessibility has been can help more of our users get more out of the things, whether it's a website or an interactive software platform, et cetera. So really, that I don't really have a certification or a degree other than going to many CLEs and being able to do a lot of analyses of WCAG and other implementations of them. I would say that the aspect that I enjoy most about work is, of course, being able to not only help the people who need accessibility, that is low vision users or people that otherwise need the help, but much like a wheelchair ramp not only helps people in wheelchairs, but also people that maybe ran too much the night before and their quads are hurting, that will help them too. So accessibility in the same way helps not only people that are disabled, but also people that are able-sighted, and to be able to say, the contrast ratio, for example, is something that that is, yes, helpful to people with low visibility, but also everybody else that, some of the low contrast, whenever I see a website with that, it annoys me as an able-sighted person. So anyway, so what I enjoy most is being able to help all users, not just people that need accessibility, be able to do it. I say least is any problem in product is often seeing around corners. That is, the problem is not always readily visible, but you also have to think, okay, what am I missing that is inaccessible? What I can, of course, there are known knowns and then there are known unknowns. What are the known unknowns that is making my website less accessible to our users? So what I like least is, what I guess kind of like most is kind of the puzzle aspect of it, to be able to try to find those known unknowns, to be able to make those inaccessible aspects visible. And with that, I can pass it along to the next person.
Thank you, Damien. I think, Dawn, you're up next.
I am. And I totally agree with everything Damien just said. It's like my life right there in Damien. But I've been in quality management as a whole for about 25 years now. 14 of those have been with LexisNexis, and the last 3 have specifically been focused on accessibility. And there is not like this training thing that you go to and you get a degree in accessibility testing. Mine's in business admin and computer information systems, but it's a wonderful world to be in. I mean, when you want to talk about the things that I enjoy most about my work is the fact that I think all of us want to have a sense of purpose in the job that we're providing or that we're doing every day. And for me, this provides a very deep sense of purpose because we are helping individuals who um, uh, i- i- have challenges in doing work or being on the computer and such, using the products that we have, et cetera, that a lot of us don't experience. And it's not just like Damien was saying, it's not just, I have a long-term disability or something like that. There's aging related disabilities. There's those short-term things where, yes, you hurt yourself and you can't get into a place anymore, or you can't use your hand to type on the keyboard or use your mouse. So accessibility covers a wide range of different areas, but um, so for me, what I like the most about my job is I find it very fulfilling every day. I love the sense of purpose that I get from it. From the least perspective would be there's so much to do. I could do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just never get it all done as we are a large global corporation. But at the same time, um, we get it done and we're working on to alleviate some of these things from a staffing perspective, but it's also very frustrating for me when I can't answer a question. A customer calls and they have an issue and I can't answer the question, but I always go and find somebody who will. And so it's not like it just stops there and I say, oh, I can't help you. But yeah, that it is challenging, as well as it's ever growing, as constant learning, which everything is that you deal with in IT. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Dawn. And that's both both of you said about it. Sometimes we have a temporary need, which I hadn't thought about. So I like that. So Thompson team.
I can start. So I've been with Thomson Reuters for 18 years and have a background in operations and project management. I'm PMP certified, which is essentially the acronym for project management professional. And I have a yellow belt in Lean Six Sigma. So essentially my areas of strength include introducing and redesigning business processes, including at scale, leading through change and setting up structure and mechanisms for governance. So about 6 years ago, I was asked to come on and take on the accessibility program and help lead it to that next phase of maturity in our shift left approach. Once I got into the role, it was actually very clear to me how my passions in my personal life aligned to this work. So Kim, I'm going to pass it off to you so we can stay on this topic, and then I think we go to the next question.
Sure. So in terms of how I ended up in this role, first of all, disclaimer, I've been with Thomson Reuters since it was West Publishing. I just hit 29 years with the company, so lots and lots of history there. And during that time, during that 29 years, I've had multiple jobs. I think for me, the thing that's been the thread that's tied them all together is accessibility. When I started as a reference attorney, I took calls from people who were blind. I took a call from a gentleman who had just started back to work after having a pretty major stroke, and then was a documentation author and realized, we need large print materials. So I think that's the thread. And then since 2008, that's been what I've been doing, full time. I'm not a developer, I'm not a designer, but certainly that advocacy piece, which is what I love, has really helped me pick up, can't write code, but I can look at it and help figure out what's going on, as well as talking to designers to help make sure that they know how to incorporate accessibility into their designs. So kind of a roundabout path. There isn't really like a major, in college for accessibility. So I think most of us have picked up our knowledge kind of on the job, if you will. So that's kind of my background and how I ended up in the role.
And then Kim, do you want to share what you like most and least?
Sure, absolutely. I I love accessibility. I could talk about this the whole rest of the day. Obviously, will not do that to you, but I love accessibility. And then there's two reasons for that. One is at work, I get to be surrounded by really, really, really smart, passionate people who also love accessibility and, you know, want to use their power for good, I guess we could say. The reason I love accessibility from kind of a customer perspective is when I do get a chance to talk to our customers, they say things like, I couldn't do my job without you. You make my life better. And how can you not love that? So that's what I love most about my job. Since I'm a manager, probably what I love least is paperwork. But I also get to educate. So that's a thing that I like as well.
I would say for me, what I like most, I'm passionate about inclusion, and this passion makes my job not seem like a job at all. I also have a disability. So I have the luxury of having a role where the work my team does has a direct impact on making people's lives easier, which I think is the theme of what a lot of us are saying here, where our customers, our users, and employees can come to work each day, thrive, and be at their best. That's our goal. The least, and I think this is a little bit around what Kim had shared too, typically the way I work is I think big, keep it simple, and move quickly. And then we continue to iterate on that. When we do run into scenarios of pushback or pause due to gaps in understanding, it can slow us down or slow down our rate of progression of driving change. But fortunately, we're lucky to where it usually just takes a little time to re-educate or educate people. And then we can pick back up that momentum again.
Excellent. And Bloomberg team.
Yeah, Matt, I'll go first. Matt is our engineering team lead. He's much smarter than me, so I'll let him talk second. So like a few of the folks on the panel, I am a former practicing attorney turned product manager. I like to say I'm a recovering attorney. And I don't necessarily want to date myself by telling you how long ago I started practicing law, but at some point, I think along the way, I realized that I liked the idea of being a lawyer much more than actually being a lawyer. And what I really loved about being a lawyer was the legal research process. So I actually joined Bloomberg in 2008 as a content creator. And over time, I've held various roles and transitioned into a product manager. So I've been a product manager for quite some time now. I'm a certified Scrum. I have a CSPO certificate, which is a certified Scrum product owner. I've focused on various different areas of the Bloomberg Law platform. But like I mentioned earlier, recently, after that assessment in 2020, I had the opportunity to take the lead for our team. We call it our discoverability team. And I've really enjoyed it. Where I get the most enjoyment is seeing people, everyone, people with disabilities, all of our users get to their aha moment on the platform. And I think my favorite part of the job is working with the development team and working with the developers and really figuring out how we can make that user experience really good for all of our users. Least, as a recovering attorney, there's probably not much about my job that, like, when I compare it to when I was at Big Law, it's all wonderful now. So, and I just love, being creative and figuring out how to make people happy using our platform. So, that's it, Matt.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, David. Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up around computers. My dad was a systems analyst, and I remember me and my brother would spend our summers picking out PC parts, putting them all together, and then spending weeks trying to figure out how to install Linux. So, I guess it was just natural that I kind of fell into this role after growing up doing that. I took the traditional path, which was more sort of set in stone back then. Go to college, get your bachelor's in computer science. As some others mentioned, I didn't learn anything about accessibility in college or web development really either. So I've been learning it all on the job. I started here at Bloomberg back in 2017. I've been leading a team since 2019. And then as Dave said, we really ramped up our accessibility initiative back in 2020. So that's sort of my team was focused on user engagement, and now we're focused on discoverability. So accessibility sort of naturally came to us based off that. You know, if you can't use the platform, you can't discover the content we want you to discover, right? So that came to me, and that's sort of how I ended up specifically in an accessibility role. In terms of things I like the most, I mean, it's great to be able to take an idea and a concept and actually be able to build something from it. I don't actually know too much about building things with my hands, but building things with my mind, we got that down. And it's great to sort of now be able to take that and build something and now make it available to more users than before through accessibility. So it's a big win. Let's see, what would I like the least? Someone already stole, there's always too much work and not enough time, so I can't go with that. I think maybe sort of the opposite of Dave, or just sort of having a different background. I kind of wish I knew more about the legal space so I could help sort of move beyond just technically ensuring we're accessible and really understanding what lawyers are looking for and how they use the platform and thinking like a lawyer so that it's sort of a good accessibility user experience and not just a compliance or a standard.
We'll
I
work
think
on
like
that,
a
Matt.
lawyer.
We'll
I
work
know,
on that.
You need to help me.
Well, it sounds like you guys make a good team because you each have the piece that the other doesn't. Okay, so that is round 2. Any questions? Again, just unmute and talk away. Nope. All right. On to the questions in round 3, talking about the group itself and what their biggest accomplishments so far have been, what they're working on now, and whether or not they have anything specific planned for the future. And Dawn, I think we're going to start with you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm really enthusiastic and proud of the accomplishment that this group has made to date, with only 5 years behind them and us. And it also be focused on internal stuff as well as external work. But I think if I were to talk about the accomplishments that were the largest ones or are the largest ones, is we have a very large product line that is global, and we've been able to provide VPATs, or what you call voluntary product accessibility templates, where you're evaluating your product against all of the WCAG guidelines. We've been able to do that for a majority of our products. But over and beyond that, we've set up a really good metrics program where we can evaluate and watch over time, are our products with each VPAT, are they declining? Are they getting better? What kind of contextual things that are going on around a product. For example, if you're revamping a whole product and doing new work, then you would expect some increased issues around accessibility because you're writing a bunch of new code and new interfaces and all that. And so just being able to measure that and have the ability to have those conversations with the team members, to work together to continually to improve the efforts that we're providing for our products and with our customers. Another area, of course, would be the establishment of what we call our LNLP enabled employee resource group. That falls under us as well. I lead a lot of the work in that space, but that's been a lot of work. I was really amazed when I first started, leading this group, the types of needs that we had internally, the programs that they might want to see, et cetera. And so we've been a vital part of our overall diversity inclusion program, and our group continues to expand globally. So we're working on chapters We started with what would you'd probably call the Raleigh chapter or the US chapter, but now we have chapters in multiple locations across the globe, and we're continuing to try to do that for all of our different locations that we have. In terms of what I'm working on right now, I'm leading a major effort to provide training for all of our agile teams across all the different product lines. Again, this is a global effort. It is fairly in-depth training where we teach them about the guidelines and what VPATs are, what it means, why we have to do it, why it's important to our customers, etc. But we're also working with them on the tools that you would use to do accessibility testing as part of your daily work. How do you build accessibility into the work that you do every day, not just something that, okay, I'm going to wait on a VPAT and see what it says and then, do something about it. So trying to do a cliche term at this point, I guess, but a shift left completely with our groups so that we're building accessibility into the product, not a retrospective, go fix it once it pops up as an issue. And in addition, recently, we are partnering to create a site for the Ukrainian refugees who have disabilities to provide them legal and medical content that will be free for them, as well as a multitude of other different information. And so that's a very big project that we've kicked off. For the future, we do have a very strong roadmap on the things that we want to do, the areas that we want to make improvements in. But for right now, I guess the major focuses are on continuing the education program that I referenced earlier, as well as I'm kicking off an effort right now to focus on recruitment for individuals, either those who are graduating from college recently and or that organizations that support individuals that have disabilities, to help place individuals with jobs within LexisNexis. We want to tap that market because we think it's a very important market to tap, and we're missing out on a lot of opportunities with a lot of skill sets by not making sure that we have everything in place to encourage people to come work for our organization that has a disability.
Well, that sounds great. And I love the Ukrainian project. That is super cool. So thank you for sharing. Team Thompson?
Go ahead, Kim.
Yep, just finding the unmute button. That's my usual MO. Sorry. So I obviously have been doing this a long time. One of the huge days of joy, happy dance days, was when we launched our external facing policy. That was delightful. And to have that kind of buy-in from the highest level of Thomson Reuters to where they said, yes, absolutely, we believe in this. We're putting this out there. And we're going to be really transparent that this is a goal for us, was an extremely proud and gratifying day for me. I'm also really impressed and proud of our team for really reaching throughout the whole organization to help bring accessibility into every part. And for us, that includes things like, as we onboard tools, maybe acquire a company, whatever that thing is, with that we're bringing in, we do an accessibility evaluation. We have, terms in the contracts that we build with our business partners. And then on the flip side, and others have mentioned this, we have that accessibility conformance report, or VPAT, that we can provide to our customers too, so that they know where we are in terms of accessibility for our products. I think that's really important, and I'm proud of us for doing that. And that sort of accountability of making sure that our, as I said, our business partners, those third parties, are doing their part for accessibility as well. And one of the things that we're working on really, really hard this year is really expanding our team. We've been growing continually for a long time, but we have a lot of buy-in now with dollars that we haven't had this in bulk like this before. So we're really growing the team, and building a fully operational program. And that includes people, process, tools, and all that sort of broad spectrum of things. And so I'm really, really proud to see that maturity really getting in there and happening this year.
And in terms of what we're working on now, I'm going to first, before I get into that, highlight something Kim had said too. I think one of very gratifying moment for us is she was talking about third-party requirements. So any third party we do business with, they're now required to meet our terms for accessibility. There was a third party we had engaged. Accessibility was a new thing for them. And after a close working relationship between my team and this third party, I ended up seeing that they were then posting a role for a specialist. So that was extremely gratifying, knowing that the work that we're doing is also impacting other businesses that we work with and making them change as well, and holding them accountable to ensure that they're creating accessible products. So that was extremely gratifying for us. In terms of work in progress for us right now, there's a number of things, but I'm going to highlight a few that I think are important here. As Kim had mentioned, we are expanding our team. There's been a significant investment for us to do that. And this is allowing us to even have more embedded support across our product development and key efforts that we're working on in 2022, and also increase our capacity to support the broader company. And this is anything from the employee experience to brand and marketing, our procurement activities, legal and compliance work, and supporting our sales teams, customer support. So that's a significant win, and a lot of work for us is going into that this year. Second, I think others have mentioned this as well. We're expanding our internal training on accessibility across the company, from employee-wide required trainings to self-paced role-specific deep dives. And third, we're in process of launching a new automated testing suite. So in addition to manual user testing that we do, we're launching a new suite of tooling as well that will give us consolidated reporting and some more consistency in how we're running automated tests. And then Kim, I'll have you pass it off to you for the next one.
I always have big plans. So this is a perfect question for me. Are there specific projects you'd like to work on in the future? Absolutely. I think that what I would love to see happen, and is we're making inroads into it already, is making sure that we're reaching out to the various communities, people with disabilities, to hear directly from them. I'm pretty good at advocating for people. I know quite a bit. I've talked to a lot of people, but really the better thing is to actually talk to those users. It turns out that's a little tricky because we can't really ask people to self-identify if they have a disability, and we know, what 70% of disabilities are hidden or invisible disabilities. So it can be hard to find those people, but we're slowly identifying people that want to help us doing some testing, giving us some user feedback. Whenever somebody calls us, because we have a really strong relationship and pipeline with customer and tech support folks, whenever we get a call or a customer wants to talk to someone from the accessibility team, that's like another happy dance day for me, because that feedback is critical and we love hearing from our customers. So expanding that, growing that's what I would like to work on in the future.
Great, thank you both. Team Bloomberg next.
So I think I mentioned this earlier, and I think, I think the first step in really making improvements in terms of accessibility is changing the thinking around it within your organization. So I think first and foremost, our biggest accomplishment has been making accessibility like 100% a priority within Bloomberg Law. If the organization is not bought into making accessibility a priority, it makes it very difficult to accomplish much. And I think like many folks said, there's not enough hours in the day for everything you want to do, and there's always pressure to release new features and move things forward. But you need to make sure that the organization is prioritizing accessibility as part of that process. So I've been proud to see that we've actually been able to make lots of strides in that area. In addition, we have, through what we call our Accessibility Champions Initiative, which Matt will talk about in a second. We've actively incorporated accessibility into each team. So the way Bloomberg Law works, there's various product teams focused on different areas of the platform. But we've managed to make sure that accessibility is baked into each team's development process, from design to development to testing. I think, like Dawn mentioned, you got to do it from the beginning. It's almost impossible, to kind of retrofit features and tools after the fact, after it's been out there. So that's what I've been most proud of. Currently, our team just continues to plug away, and Matt will talk about some of the more specific things that the team is building and working on to help push the accessibility effort forward. But our goal is to continue to look and prioritize the areas of the platform that we want to make accessible. We are looking towards doing another VPAT relatively soon, so we can kind of assess where we are and see where else we need to put some efforts. I think, like other folks also mentioned, we're advocating and we're working to expand our team so we can accomplish more faster. Specific projects for the future, with the pandemic and more people going remote, and a lot of the attorneys and legal professionals working remotely, I'm really hoping to soon relook at the mobile experience for legal professionals, and really ensuring how the mobile experience, we can ensure that the mobile experience works for all people with disabilities, and that we can make that experience accessible as well. And I think that'll be critical for all of the folks on the panel as the working environment continues to evolve as we move forward.
All right, sorry, now I'm struggling with the mute button. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more on some of the sort of engineering side. As Dave hinted, I think one of our biggest accomplishments, technically speaking, is the progress we've made on adding accessibility into our core UI component library, so that moving forward, developers are starting with a solid foundation. It's obviously great to make it, a first-class citizen and have it be part of the culture. It's even better if people don't have to think about it and it just happens, right? So that's been one of our big accomplishments on the technical side. As a manager, one of the softer accomplishments is helping the engineers add this to their tool belt, add this to their skill set, so it helps not just Bloomberg Law now, but all the future companies that they go, making this a part of their craft and having that grow with them over time. As David said, one of the things we're working on right now is sort of establishing accessibility champions. It's kind of similar to the guild model. Some bigger companies have, I think maybe Spotify was the one who sort of made that term popular. So getting these sort of accessibility experts on each team, they're helping do sort of reviews, as people said, shifting left, so reviewing the mock-ups that we get. Obviously, the designers themselves are looking at accessibility, but before we actually start writing the code, we're looking at those designs. And then they're sort of reviewing the code as it comes along, making sure that we're living up to those accessibility standards. And as Rachel said, one of the big focuses for me is on automated testing. As we all know, manual testing takes a lot of time, and the feedback cycle is significantly longer. Working with third-party vendors or having people here do it takes a lot of time. So working on that next will be our one of my main priorities.
Thank you. Damien, you're up next, and I just noticed we are starting to run short on time. Damien, you take your time here, but we'll figure out if we have time for round 4.
Sounds great. So the biggest accomplishments so far is marching across product lines as I joined in January of 2019 and being able to work through them. And the gratifying part of that is that it's the right thing to do. Obviously, as everyone on this presentation knows, it's also a litigation risk. That is, there are plaintiffs' lawyers, often with disabilities, that will look through the websites and be able to see, is this inaccessible? If so, maybe I file a lawsuit for inaccessibility. So the beautiful part about monitoring across product lines is that not only is it the right thing to do, but it's also a good return on investment. So in that way, you can do well by doing good. As a litigator, I was a plaintiff's lawyer, and so I often thought that I was making the world safer by making sure that companies are held accountable for things. So anyway, so the accessibility is a way that we can essentially make the world better. And there's always the stick of litigation to be able to make sure that people that are not doing that kind of work can be doing that work as well. So working at Fastcase, I've worked for large organizations my entire career up to Fastcase. That is, I worked for big law, I worked for government, and I worked for other large companies. As a startup, one of the benefits is I get to work really fast. That is, I go through a product, I say, here's the current hex code, let's use this hex code instead. And then within 5 minutes, it's done, it's in production. So it's an amazing way to be able to quickly move through products and product lines without a lot of overhead. And another thing is that once you go through the existing things, I can also have a part in the new builds to be able to say, I worked cybersecurity for a while, and a big thing in cybersecurity is security by design, that you build things with security in mind. Privacy by design, make sure that you build privacy in by design. I've been building accessibility by design, right? Doing it on the front end rather than on the back end. So being able to do that is really an important way that people almost think of me as the accessibility czar. Like, what would Damien say about the thing we're building right now? So in that way, I'm kind of a specter in the back of everyone's minds, almost their conscience. I'm a Jiminy Cricket of the accessibility. So what am I working on now? We're always looking to be able to improve every product and to see if they're accessible. And one of the things that I would guess that all of our panels here would agree is that once you start seeing inaccessibility, it's hard to unsee it. You see it throughout the world. And so as an example, Lucy, I wonder if looking at the PowerPoint, could you go back to the intro slide of the introductions of all the people and their names and titles and that kind of thing? I would bet that most people here looked at the colors, for example, and said that blue, the senior product manager, on the black background, I just did a web tool to be able to see, and that fails every WCAG item. And the orange, similarly, both the orange on black fails WCAG. The panelists with the white on orange also fails. So anyway, so one of the things that I think might be helpful for all of our attendees to think about is certainly whoever made this PowerPoint did not mean to be inaccessible, right? They really meant it to be good, and so you can always assume good intent with the people, but even with good intent, you can create some things that are inaccessible. Another thing to think about is for this presentation, if you go forward a couple of slides, there's one with an image. I like that image right there. Does that have an alt tag on it to be able to have people that are using screen readers to be able to see that is a keyboard with accessibility numbers on it, right? Similarly, right now we're speaking. Is there captioning for what we're speaking, right? Maybe, maybe not. So all of those things, that's kind of the seeing around corners that I mentioned earlier, is that yes, I mean, we're talking right now about accessibility, but really how accessible are the things that we're even using as our tools to be able to give this presentation on accessibility? So fast forward that to product development. So you can imagine, as developers are thinking about how do I make this data go through the pipe more quickly? They're not thinking about how accessible it is. So it's important for us, the Jiminy Crickets of accessibility, the consciences of accessibility, to be able to say, hey, maybe we could change the colors on this to make it more accessible. And one of the benefits of changing the colors, if you go back to the intro slide with all the titles again, it's that you can see how the blue kind of shimmers as you look at it. It almost vibrates, and so it's annoying even for able-sighted people to be able to see. So one of the benefits, if you made that say a light blue, it would both be accessible because it's more contrasty. It'd also be more aesthetically pleasing, right? It looks nicer, in addition to being accessible. So that's kind of the ramp helps even the people that were working out too much the night before. So that rising tide will float all the boats. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is specific projects in the future. We as legal research products have two aspects of our business. One is the UI, user interface, that we've been talking about primarily. The other aspect is content. That is content from judges, content from lawyers. We have full control over the UI. We have next to no control over the content from the judges. The content from judges and lawyers will often have images within the briefs. The content from lawyers will often have also, emoji in the briefs. Is that, so how do we display that in an accessible way? Is it our job to take the garbage that the courts give us and make it accessible. For my data set, I have about 650 million judicial documents and lawyer file documents. So if it's my job to clean up the garbage that they give to us and make it accessible, that's a big task, right? Should it be our job to do that? Or is it the judge's job to do that? Or is it the lawyer's job to do that type of thing? All sorts of lawyers and judges still scan their documents and then upload it to the systems. Scanned PDFs are horribly inaccessible. But we're not requiring judges or lawyers to, print to PDF or provide an RTF or something like that is way more accessible. So anyway, so I would love for a specific project in the future for maybe a consortium of perhaps people on this call to be able to maybe say, hey, we have to deal with this garbage you're giving us, judges, lawyers. How about you require accessibility for the courts? So that we don't have to do the work on our side with 650 million documents, but instead you can give us not garbage, but good stuff that is fully accessible. So we don't have to have essentially inaccessible content for our beautifully accessible UI. Anyway, I throw that as a gauntlet that perhaps we could have a consortium of folks to put pressure on the judiciary. We'll see if it works.
Well, thank you, Damien. And yes, I am responsible for these slides. We based them on the no-cal colors. But I'm really glad that you used this as an example, because not only can I keep that in mind going forward, but I can also share that with the people at my firm that helped me create these slides. So that was really helpful. So we're 5 minutes over. Jeremy, we got one more set of questions. Should we just skip this or ask for really brief responses? What do you think?
I think we're okay because we're heading into lunch after this, and we reserved a full hour for lunch. So if you want to close it out with the brief responses, I think that's great.
Okay, so if everybody wouldn't mind trying to keep this last one brief, because we still have a raffle to do too. So I think we are starting with the Thompson team for this round.
Right, I can start. So in terms of hurdles, I would say my biggest hurdle is time. Most days before I know it, it's time for the day to wrap up and begin family and personal time. So that's my biggest hurdle. Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of same with me. And I think Dawn, you mentioned that before too, like there's so much work to do. It's good work. You have to prioritize it, and not getting everything done is sometimes frustrating. And I kind of have a hard time stopping work for my day sometimes. But I just think of the people. 25% of the population has a disability, 70% are hidden. We know there's a lot of people that are impacted by our work.
Yeah. And then in terms of what I think things would look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50, based on how trends are going in the legal landscape and jurisdictional requirements, I do expect that we'll continue to see more legislation globally. So in the US, we have the ADA where the courts are split. Canada, there's AOTA, which is the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. There's the Accessible Canada Act. Europe has, I think it's called the European Accessibility Act. So I do expect we'll see more legislation, especially across Canada. They seem to be leading this space right now. More so than some of the other countries. And in Ontario, within AOTA, that it's a compliance requirement. So I expect that we'll see more compliance level requirements, especially. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's, the sort of the laws and the ADA, which I think is getting more embracing of adding web to the ADA. The Department of Justice recently issued more of a sort of statement, best practice, saying web accessibility is a thing. There's a lot of rumors floating around that maybe the Department of Justice is actually going to issue some regulations that will make it very clear that web accessibility is required. I know in terms of other things that are happening, Thomson Reuters is a member of the W3C, and we have several people on our team working on the next iteration of the WCAG requirements, the 3 series. So that's going to be a lot different. And I think way more inclusive, really looking forward to that. But in the interest of time, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Kim and Rachel both. Team Bloomberg?
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I'll keep this brief as well. I think, and it's been a theme of kind of my talking points, but I think the biggest hurdle is maintaining the resolve to stay committed to improving accessibility. I, as a product manager, I need to ensure that my internal stakeholders understand that good design and good user experience includes accessibility, right? And improving accessibility will improve, like Damien was talking about with the colors, on the slides. Improving accessibility will improve the overall user experience and lead to a better product. So that's, I think, not necessarily a hurdle, but that's something that I have to stay committed to and stay focused on. So what needs to change to overcome these hurdles? I think that it's a continuing to get the idea out and to continue to pound it into people's brains that this is something that needs to be prioritized. We've seen that change, especially over the last few years, but there's always a pressure, to get things out the door, new features, new revenue streams, and this just has to be something that is second nature to that whole process. So what will accessibility look like 5 years from now, 10 years, 50 years? Well, that's an interesting one. I think we're going to see more and more devices with built-in accessibility features. I think the way we interact with devices is going to evolve. We're going to see advancements in things like touch, gesture, optical tracking. I think in the legal space, I expect voice recognition to be incorporated more and more. Wouldn't legal professionals like to just ask a legal question and get the answer and everything sent right to them? I know the ones that I speak to would. Matt, any other comments?
No, I mean, I'll go quick. I mean, I think the hurdles that we see are really more of a marathon than a sprint, right? Like as teams grow, as teams change, people changing jobs more frequently these days. It's just keeping that conversation constant and making it okay for people to take time and make things accessible. It needs to be part of, our sort of our metrics and our culture. It's not just about writing as much code or delivering as many features as possible if people can't use them. So keeping that as a focus. I think, for accessibility in 50 years, I think it won't even matter. We'll just plug into the matrix and we'll get our answer. You don't need to worry about screen readers or color contrast. Just download the information right to your brain. No, I kid. I think in a more realistic answer, I think in the short term, a lot of the tools that we're building now that leverage, ML and AI to eliminate a lot of human manual tasks will really improve accessibility a lot. You can make our current websites accessible, but it only gets you so far versus tools like, the brief analyzers and the draft analyzers that will cut out a lot of that manual stuff for us.
All right, thank you. Damien.
Right. I think two aspects. Aspect number one is the hurdle that is, I think, being overcome is everyone's seen the bumper sticker start seeing motorcycles, and then that turned into start seeing art. I think start seeing accessibility, or more importantly, start seeing inaccessibility. Right. Everyone on this thing should start looking for these types of things, and I think that's a hurdle that can be overcome and is being overcome. That's thing number one. Thing number two is that the DOJ guidelines that like everyone probably on the call have been essentially thinking, DOJ, come on, get with it. It's been a decade, and they've said that the guidelines are coming. The guidelines are coming in April 2022. Just a few months ago, they came. That they did actually provide some DOJ guidance, not as much as people would have liked, but at least it's something. I put the links into the chat, and then as part of that, I think everyone was talking about how machines could be able to help the process to make it more accessible without people thinking about it. And I think tools like Zoom have actually helped. I've been on presentations where Zoom and I think Google Meet and others have voice recognition features where actually as I'm speaking, it could be closed captioning what I'm speaking right now in real time. So people would be able to actually see in closed captioning. YouTube similarly does closed captioning for all of their things. So anyway, there are off-the-shelf tools that the smart people are being able to bake accessibility into existing tools so that people on this call don't have to think as much about it. They still might have to think about it, but maybe those kinds of things are baked in. So those are my two thoughts.
Thank you. And I thought that somebody did turn on the closed captioning here. Yeah, I think a lot of people saw that.
Yep.
Zoom has it. So thank you. And then Dawn. Dawn? I don't see Dawn on my screen anymore.
I think Dawn might be muted, at least on my
Oh,
screen.
there we go. Yeah, she's muted.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to use my little button here and it's not working, so I had to reach up to the screen. But
Oh, and I
anyway,
just wanted to really briefly to say Dawn was having some technical issues, and she made the effort to go to her local library so she could participate in this presentation. So thank you, Dawn.
thanks. Things happen. And this was perfectly fine. The library has been very accommodating, but it was actually a perfect environment for this particular audience. But I won't reiterate on the things that a lot of the other people mentioned in terms of bandwidth and all of that. I do think as requirements change, just like we had the big change with Canada, what, a year or two ago, 2 years ago, other countries are starting to add a lot more stringent requirements around accessibility, which includes very stiff fines if you don't adhere to those, which is not a bad thing. But in terms of overcoming that hurdle, for someone like me, I'd like to have more opportunities to have training on what those changes are, especially if I don't live in that country, but I support that country. So more information that's shared versus you just send out this big, document that you read. And I would need Damien or one of your other lawyers to make it make sense to me. But anyway, I think that is something in terms of the future of digital accessibility. I just can't even imagine, to be honest with you. I do think that there's going to be goggles people wear or whatever that are increasingly, have the ability to overcome challenges with vision and such, as well as mobile challenges. But what I really think is there going to be more improvements in helping to correct those types of impairments. So hopefully in the future, not as many people have to experience so many of these challenges. But I do think it's like a big wide world out there in terms of improvements that'll be forthcoming in this space. And it'll all be exciting. In 50 years, though, I probably won't be here to know what those are.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, everybody. I've got my horrible slide back up again to remind you who everybody is. Oh, that was a good one. And I'm sorry, when I have my screen up, I can't see where the chat is. So again, if anybody has any questions, now's the time to unmute and ask them. And I wanted to, again, thank everybody. I learned a lot and it was very interesting, and I really appreciate all of your information and your time and your opinions about what's going on out there. And then if there's no questions, I think, oops, there should have been this. Oh yeah, it's raffle time. And Jeremy or Delia, are you guys, how does that work?
So I have taken attendance of everybody who is in today's session. Vendors, speakers, forgive me. I have excluded you from the raffle. So I hope you're okay with that. And based on that, and excluding Jeremy and myself, because, I felt funny adding myself into this, I have 28 names left. So I'm going to ask, we have 4 gift cards. We have 3 $10 cards from Lexus and a $50 card from Thompson. Thank you very much for those donations. So I'm going to put Jeremy on the spot and ask him to give me 4 numbers between.
Sorry, there's also $100 from Fastcase. I don't know if Lucy mentioned that, but we also, that's one more person.
But I think you're doing that in the other.
I'm so sorry. Yes,
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Coming, so that will entice people to attend the session right after lunch on Court Analytics, because we will have a $100 gift card from Fastcase for that session. So that's a big one, folks. Okay, so Jeremy, I will need 4 numbers between 1 and 28, please.
Okay, the first number is 1.
Okay, so that's for a $10 card. Another $10 card, please.
Second one is 7.
Okay, another $10 card, please.
Next one is 12.
And now I need one number for the $50 card.
21.
Okay. So that folks see that I'm not cheating. Oh, I can't screen share. So Jean Willis has won a $10 card. I promise I didn't cheat and I've sorted this list 1,000 different ways. Patty Trackman won a $10 card. Tina Dumas won a $10 card. And Carrie Barclay won the $50 gift card. So I will reach out to the 4 of you. Monday's a holiday, so maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, after I catch up with my inbox, I will reach out to you guys with the information. And again, thank you to our vendors for making these donations.
And
Thank
thank you to
you.
our speakers. Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
so
Thank you.
thanks to Lucy for organizing this. Thanks to all the vendors for their participation and their insights. Greatly appreciated. We are going to break for a little under an hour lunch now. So back at 1 p.m. for the session on state court analytics, where you'll get to see Damien again. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you back here in around an hour.
Thank you.